Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Renew Show. I want to thank you for tuning in. Today we have a show that's going to be a topic, and you can probably see that one of our hosts is missing, Sarah Smelling. She's not able to be with us because she's really, really sick. So everybody, just pray for her because she's really not feeling well. If you saw her last weigh-in video, then you know what she's dealing with, and it's just more of the same. So we're going to talk about, as you can see from the title, fat shaming, fit shaming, and fat acceptance. I just have to say off the bat, I hate those terms. But that's just the labels people put on these things. But I just hate the way it sounds because, I don't know. It just sounds like it kind of fits this soft society. You know, anything you say that's criticism is shaming. So anyway, we're going to stick with those terms. So don't beat me up if you hear them. So Sherry Ann thought it would be wise, I think she thought that, it would be wise for me to kind of give a definition or at least let you know what these terms mean, because a lot of times you see the actual behavior, but you don't know they put this label on it. So fat shaming is just pretty much like it sounds, making someone feel ashamed of being fat. Bullying. We're going to be discussing more what people think is helpful. So someone calling you names or trying to make you feel ashamed or make you feel bad because they think that's going to motivate you to want to lose weight. That's more of what it is. People a lot of times think by calling you fatty, that's going to make you jump on the treadmill. So talking about that, have you experienced it? Does it work? And then the responses to that tend to fall in two categories. You either have a camp that says that is acceptance group that basically says being fat is fine. Being fat is okay. And as long as your blood work comes back, fine. You can be 400 pounds. Who cares? You're not doing anything wrong to yourself or anyone else. So it's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and be fat. And then you have kind of the flip side of that same thing, which says it may not be okay to be fat. Like, you're not advocating that. But what you're advocating is, or what you're saying is that everyone else who isn't fat is horrible. You know, women do it all the time, talking about smaller women, and they're just sticks, and real men love curves, and only dogs like bones, and things like that. And, oh, look at her, she should go eat a burger. Or, you know, you see a man who's fat can look at a skinny guy and talk about he's probably weak, he's not a real man, how's he going to protect a woman, you know, all this stuff. So you have that on both sides happening. So those are the terms. That's what we're going to talk about. So I guess I can go first because I started it. We actually were thinking about having a special guest on who is about 5'5", 5'6", 102 pounds, and she was going to talk about it from her perspective, but she wasn't able to make it. But she did tell us, Sherry Ann and I, some things about that. But I'll just say, for me, as far as the fat shaming goes, I haven't had anyone really come to me. I don't think it happens too much with men, to be honest with you. I haven't had anyone come to me thinking they're going to bash me or make me feel bad, and that's going to make me want to be healthy. No one's tried to motivate me with negative reinforcements, let's say. Have either of you experienced that? Especially people who know you want to lose weight, have they tried to just be heavy-handed in the way that they support you, and it ends up turning into what's called fat shaming?
I don't think I've experienced that in any kind of traumatic or extreme way. I think the only thing I can really point to, though, is more of a cultural thing. It's just being around Jamaicans and around my family or around Jamaicans. Like, they just think it's okay to be like, oh boy, you're fat. Just really, just really blunt and, you know, just in your face with it. Like, they just think that that's okay. So, I mean, I think I've just experienced that. I mean, not even really directed towards me, but, you know, like just or boy, you've gained weight, like even something like that. But I think they think it's kind of innocuous to say those statements just so boldly, just not realizing or caring that someone may be sensitive towards something like that. So, I mean, I think that's probably.
I think, like Sherry Ann, I've never had like a friend or family member or on YouTube or anything like that where someone said really boldly and meanly anything like, of course my little comments here and there that people inadvertently say, and it kind of makes you, not kind of, sometimes it really hurts your feelings, but the intent isn't as malicious as maybe it feels sometimes. But I know for some people they've experienced very strong, direct language, like calling names, very, very mean stuff. And that's never happened to me, fortunately. But I know it happens a lot.
Yeah, I was watching a video. It's funny because when 2 weeks ago we were going to talk about this, I had to cancel the show. Then about a week later, one of the bigger fitness channels on YouTube, Juggernaut Fitness, posted a video about fat acceptance and fit shaming. And and when I start looking in the comment sections, I really wanted to see where people who are on the other side of the fitness spectrum, the ones who are actually fit, how they view some of this. So I was reading through the comments, and a lot of the people were saying, okay, fat acceptance is wrong, which we'll talk about in a minute, whether it is or not. But they were saying if somebody is fat, they need to know that they're fat and gross and disgusting and unhealthy so that they can change. I mean, so many people were saying it in those ways. Like, if somebody feels gross and disgusting and feels horrible about themselves, that's what they need to push them and motivate them. And most likely these were people who are in a gym 3-4 hours a week just because of the channel they're watching or more, and are probably in great shape and never had a problem dealing with obesity and other issues besides just eating too much that comes with it. So they probably were speaking out of ignorance, but they were so harsh in the way that they were speaking, and they were saying this should motivate people. If I tell you you're not sexy and tell you that you're ugly and you're unattractive and you're gross, that should make you say, wow, I don't want to be those things, and I'm just going to go and get in shape.
That is terribly ignorant, and it's really upsetting. I mean, along with weight loss, which is our main topic, but that's really how I feel a lot in regards to my illnesses. Like, a lot of people try to have advice, they may read a magazine one day, or they may talk to a friend who they think.
Sherry Ann, I was in the waiting room.
Exactly.
And I read an article in Women's Day.
Exactly.
And they told me.
And they may have the best intentions, but in my mind, I'm like, don't you think because I'm dealing with this every day that I've probably researched this now for the 10 years that I've been dealing with my illness? And I feel like with people who are trying to lose weight, it's the same thing. Like, don't you think they look in the mirror and are unhappy with how, don't you think they're beating themselves up in their own minds a lot? Do you think they really need you to come along and tell them, the negative reinforcement that you're trying to put into their minds? Like, they're not feeling those things or thinking those things 24/7, you know what I mean, most of the time? I don't know. That just really bothers me just for that reason. I just feel like that mentality is just piling on what someone is already dealing with internally, and it's just not helpful.
With a lot of those fitness channels, and Khalif knows I subscribe to a lot of them. Obviously, I'm not like a lifter. I mean, I like lift weights to stay healthy, but I don't do what these people do. And I think for some of them, it's the opposite end of the spectrum, where for some of them, they are lifting weights in the gym all the time. Their social culture, their emotional culture, their spiritual culture revolves around the gym and around their. I'm not saying that there's wrong with, the difference. Some of them you can tell they got the crazy in their eye. Something's not quite right. And it's usually those people who are the most harsh and the most critical towards people who are overweight or obese, because it's just the opposite of it, and they feel very distressed about their body. They have weird body issues and all sorts of weird stuff that they're doing, tons of supplements that aren't proven to be safe. I mean, they're really doing wacky stuff. It's easy to project that insecurity and that inner conflict onto people who are fat or obese, because that's just, everything that they despise about themselves. And I don't know. I don't know. It's really, you know, seeing it come from people in the fitness community is really upsetting. But I think there is something to, like, with the juggernaut fitness and the people who do watch those types of channels, sometimes I think the culture is sometimes very mean and nasty, just like gaming culture. It's totally appropriate to be racist and homophobic and all sorts of crazy. It's just part of the culture, and that's what's accepted. Right. And I sometimes think for those channels, sometimes that kind of stuff is just very accepted, whereas it's not in our culture, in our part of the internet.
I guess that's the thing that's interesting too. You know, people talk about it in general. It's just that everyone is very courageous behind their computers. You know, they're very powerful when they want to type things, and you know. But it's just, I feel like as human beings, like, we just need to treat people better. You know, and honestly, like, in another sense, I'm not on the other end of it where I feel like everyone should be coddled like a baby. I don't think that's the answer either. But just as human beings, like, we can treat each other better with some level of respect, you know? And that just goes out the windows with these issues sometimes.
Yeah, and it's funny because that channel in particular is run by Jason Blaha, and he was over 100 pounds overweight, and you know, was bedridden for a year, and he has this great story. He's lost 100 pounds twice in his life, and you know, so he actually has a little more compassion. I mean, he still says it's straightforward, but he talks a lot about body dysmorphia in the fitness industry. He talks a lot about eating disorders with bodybuilders, and like Brooke was saying, that extreme, the people who are trying to be extremely fit and they go to those crazy levels. He talks negative about them and saying how that's unhealthy. So he's someone, actually, I think, who has a pretty balanced view, but a lot of people watching his channel are they're just so vicious in the comments. And I mean, you see the comments on him. If anybody's ever seen him,
I don't know where they come from, but they come to him.
Yeah, I don't, and he's not. I mean, they call him fat. They call him disgusting and obese and over. I mean, they call him these ridiculous names. If you see the man, he doesn't look like a bodybuilder, so they say he's fat.
Yeah, they are pretty rude.
So it's like, we do have that culture that we're in, but you know, you have the other side of it, which is the fat acceptance, which basically says, hey, it's okay to be big. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. We'll point to a lot of different things. Some cultures, being the fatter you are, it's a sign of wealth, and we'll just come up with all these things to convince ourselves. I saw someone say that you have a lower chance of getting type 2 diabetes if you are larger. That being overweight or obese lowers your chance of getting type 2 diabetes. And I just couldn't believe she was saying it. So you have these this other side which says there's nothing wrong with being big. You have, like I said, these memes all the time that put down skinny people and say, you know, being bigger is better, and you know, we have all these different terms, more cushion for the pushing. We have, you know, all these things to say it's okay to be big, you know, and we have to really say, for our health, it's not. It's not really about looks. It's about our health. And if it's been proven that being obese or overweight can, you know, lower your life expectancy, increase your chance of osteoporosis, increase your chance of type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and high blood pressure, and heart disease, then we should try to work towards fixing those things, not spending 10 years telling a woman you're still beautiful while you're big. The beauty has nothing to do with it. You can be as beautiful as you want, but you're killing yourself. And we have to, you know, like, we have to get real with that without going to the other extreme and saying you're a fat slob and you disgust me. You know, there is a middle ground, and I think, you know, we have to find that.
Yeah, it just seems like with all these things, like, we're failing to find a middle ground. You know, I was just thinking about what you were saying, and it just seems that, you know, I think, as we all know, anyone who's tried to lose weight, like, so much of it is mental. You know, it's a mental battle, and then with the fat acceptance to that extreme, it just seems like if we're mentally putting ourselves in a bad place, if we take it too far. I was thinking about, I think especially because I've been going through the Renew episodes lately, every guest that has been on has talked about their relationship with food, and that negative. You know, like they've either said that they've abused food or they've depended, like pretty much it's been like a drug, it's been a friend, it's, you know, in all these ways, it's been a negative relationship with food. So if all of a sudden we're convincing ourselves that everything is fine, then we never correct that relationship with food, you know, which is which a lot of people have admitted has been a problem. So the problem never goes away now. If we just say, it's fine, you know, like I'm beautiful, I'm curvy, everything is great, like we never fix that. We never fix that aspect that we know something is wrong that needs to be addressed.
That's such a good point. I haven't thought about it like that before. That piece is still amiss. It's just sort of swung in a different way.
Yeah, it's like we just hide the things that we can admit in a way is broken. You know, like now they're not broken anymore because I've changed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I can accept myself. So let's ignore all the things I was willing to admit was a problem before.
It's sort of, it depends on what community you live in and what the culture of where you live is. Like, I feel like for my height at 5'11", when I started running, 250 pounds, for a lot of people that wasn't really that big. Like pretty much like as a general American rule, unless you were in certain parts of the country where that would be huge. But our sense of what's big keeps getting pushed, and the fact was, I was 250 pounds, and I had high blood pressure, and both my parents are diabetic, and they're both take insulin, and my grandparents are on insulin, like when they were alive. I mean, it's not a good thing for me to like, oh, I'm just big, and I'm not that big, because even if you're healthy now, and it always stuns me when people say, like, oh, but I'm healthy. Well, you're healthy today, but that doesn't mean you're going to be healthy tomorrow or when you're 50 or when you're 60, and then it's impossible to get the weight off because you're diabetic. Just try losing weight when you're diabetic. Good luck. It's going to be really hard. So that's, I think, another problem, too, is the concept of what's big just keeps shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we watch some old TV shows and we look at the people who were considered fat, like, okay, Ralph Cramden, Jackie Gleason, Honeymooners. I mean, all of the jokes about him was how huge he was. He would just be a little bit above average in today's culture. Or if anyone's ever watched Gilligan's Island, the skipper, that was all the jokes about the skipper, was how fat he was, how huge he was. He's like the average man today.
And what's it from All in the Family?
Archie?
Yeah, he was supposed to be really big too, and you see him and he just looks like kind of an average, like how you would describe him now as,
right.
I don't know, kind of normal looking, kind of normal size.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like overall my point. It's just, it's funny, Rob Reno's thing is you have to change the mind, right, to change the body. That's what he always said, and that's the thing. Like I feel like in a way we're changing our minds in the wrong ways, though. Because we don't want to change the body. Like that's what some of these things are adding up to.
Mhm. For sure. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. Like why? Is it just? Yeah. Why is it shifting that way and not shifting the other way? Why is it? I don't know. Why? When does it? Is it the songs? Is it the music? Like what? What is it that's making it acceptable to be, I guess, unhealthy? And people say unhealthy, but I mean obese, I guess, or super morbidly obese or obese. I don't think anyone would consider that healthy. I mean, I guess some people do. And I guess, the acceptance of loving yourself is good. I think you should love what size you are. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or an ugly person or that you aren't sexy or beautiful or any of those things, because you are to somebody. You are to yourself or you are to somebody else. But yeah, the health part of it, I don't know. I just don't understand why it's I don't get it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just don't understand why it's like people can say it's healthy or like that they deserve that or like I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a lot of factors that go into it, but I think it really boils down to we don't want to accept blame. And if we really are true to ourselves and say this is unhealthy, and we go years and we don't change it, then we have to look and say, every time I overeat, every time I binge, every time I choose to not work out, I'm making a conscious effort. I'm making a choice to be unhealthy. I'm making a choice to kill myself faster. And we don't want to say that because we don't want to put the blame of all these diseases on us. We want to look back to 10 generations to find someone else who had it to say it runs in the family and it's not my fault. We want to say, oh, when I was a child, they sat me in front of the television, so I'll blame my parents. We're always looking for someone else to blame, but if we boil it down to it's unhealthy, you're killing yourself faster, then we have to look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm really sometimes not even willing to take a step towards better health, knowing that I'm killing myself. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow. It's hard to say, I'm choosing to kill myself. And we don't like speaking in those harsh terms. We'd rather say, well, it's and we dance around it rather than just say, look, Khalif, every time you do this, you're going in the wrong direction. You're heading towards a faster grave. And is that what you're going to continue to do? And my only response has to be, no, I'm not, or yes, because I love the taste of this food. One or the other. And we may need help to get over that. I'm not saying it's just willpower and it's not real mental battles, but we're not even willing to say that we're fighting for the wrong team. We're fighting against ourselves, and I don't think we like saying that. So we'd rather either blame other people, put other people down, or we'd rather say everything's fine and nothing's wrong and say it long enough until we think we believe it.
It's too bad that your looks and your appearance and your size is such a big commodity to all, because we probably would be a lot healthier if there wasn't so much wrapped up in being ripped or thin or having a thigh gap or whatever your measure of a good body size is. But that's it's hard not to separate the two. Being healthy is obviously the main thing, but of course all of us want to lose weight so we can look better. So I think that there's something in there. If it was just like you improved your health and your body weight, you just stayed looking the same, maybe people would be more willing to do it because there wouldn't be that other weird facet, attached to it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times it comes down to looks. We all want to look better, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that a lot of people, when they talk about losing weight, men and women, a lot of it is the physical, they want the physical benefits. They want people to say, wow, I look great. They want to be able to say, I want a fit bikini. Like, those are a lot of the goals that people set up, and they don't say, my triglyceride levels were here, and I want them to be at this level. I want my weight to come down here for this reason. I want to reduce my waist size so that my waist to hip ratio, is lower, because that's one of the biggest health markers we have. We're not thinking that most of the time. We're just like, hey, I can take off my shirt in the beach, those types of things. Or then we just say, you know what, forget it. I'm going to love myself and take my shirt off anyway. Who cares who looks? And then if someone says something, we're going to say, you're fat shaming. So I think we have a lot of that.
I think people should be able to take off their shirt whenever they want, and people do not need to worry about it. I don't know. I agree. People, if a bigger woman or a bigger man wants to wear whatever, I don't have a problem. I don't think that anyone else should have a problem with it either, unless it's like something's hanging out. But you're missing something.
Make sure you're covered enough under it. But you mentioned a song, and there was this song. I was talking to our friend, who is the one that's 102 pounds that was going to come on. And this song came on. She's a hairstylist, and the song came on in her salon, and it says, I don't know all the words, but I actually pulled it up here, but it's, I'm all about that bass, no treble.
Of course. You don't know that song?
and that's like the big woman's anthem.
Sarah hates that
like,
song too. Just add that in.
Is like, that's my theme song, and it's like, really. So I have the lyrics here. I looked at some of it, and it's not that she's not just saying that she wants to take pride in the way that she looks, but she's like, I take pride because I don't look like the other people. I don't look like a stick figure Barbie doll. You know, so I'm glad about that. You know, and it's saying that, so someone who weighs 100 pounds, you have to then insult them and call them a stick figure or compare them to some silicone Barbie doll and say they look disgusting because they look like a stick and I have curves and only dogs like sticks. Only dogs like bones, and real men need something to hold on to. And so you have to put down the other side in order to feel better about yourself, rather than say, I don't like something about me, let me work on me and fix me. It's, I don't like me, so I'm going to put you down, so then I'm up here. I'll yank you down, and so I'm now higher than you. You didn't move, you're in the same place. You just pulled somebody down. Like, you didn't advance.
I mean, I think that's the problem. Once again, like with any topic, is that we find that people just do that instead of finding a way to be okay about themselves by themselves. It tends to be, let's take it to the other extreme to bring ourselves up. And I'm not really sure what the answer is to that. You know, I'm not really sure how we can fix that. You know, I really wish I really wish I knew what. I mean, I think part of the problem is with these issues is that some of it is internal, some of it's external. You know, like we can talk about internally what people can do, but like with the fat shaming or I forgot the other terms you use, but let's just say shaming anyone, we're talking about what people are externally doing to other people. And it's like, you know, what do we do about that? Like, how can we change that? I don't know. You know, how do you stop someone who feels they have the right to bombard someone else's life, emotions, and thoughts with their opinions about that person? I don't know.
It's like, well, these songs obviously mean a great deal to people who are really into them. It makes them feel very proud and happy and like accepting of themselves, which I think is a good thing. I don't think that is like part of the puzzle to go around feeling ashamed of yourself or feeling like you're some kind of beast and you need to change yourself. But yeah, like you were saying, I wish there was another way to sort of make people feel more confident. And of course, I'm looking for it. I think most people are, to, I don't know, be more confident. Like you're saying, just be more confident on your own and not necessarily have it tied to some external thing.
Yeah, so it's like, let's handle the internal without knocking down the next person while we do that, you know?
Right. Because in the song, she talks a lot about men and how they feel about women. So it's sort of like validating your size based on what men tell you your size should be. And also Meghan Trainor, if you've seen her in real life, she's not overweight.
She's not a big girl.
No, she's a healthy weight. She's not overweight. Like, if you were to see her show up at your gym, you'd be like, wow, she's really fit. She's thin. So, I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know.
But you know what? Like, let's just say, like, it happens in other ways, too. So, for example, one of Kylie's favorite songs from back in the day, Stir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back, right?
Which is back now, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we know we got Anaconda, but let's not. But the point is, so,
I just ruined it.
Right, but that song wasn't like overweight versus skinny or whatever. That song was about women who have big butts, those who are flat in the back, right? But even with that song took the other extreme too. Like women who were voluptuous in the rear were praised, and those who weren't were pretty much treated like they weren't attractive. I mean, that's what happened in the lyrics. And you know, it's like, is that okay? You know? It's the same thing. It's like, why do we have to shame the other side of whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at some of the comments, and Susan said, I don't think making someone feel bad is ever going to be motivating. Just talking about the fat shaming aspect of it. And Lori Has Hope says, being disrespectful is never right. And I think that's something every side needs to remember on this. And Rob said, I've never been fat shamed, but I have been shamed when I was bulimic. In my opinion, I think it hurts maybe more because with bulimia, it is a recognized sickness or illness. And being obese, while it may be a sickness, I don't think it is looked at as a sickness. I was made to feel worthless and like crap, and that did not help. It hurt my success. It set me back months. We have to be very careful what we say. In the end, we are human, fat, thin, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, a great way to look at it. And that's the way that we should look at it. I mean, we're
human beings.
Yeah, we're human. And first, Brooke, like you said before, there are people who love people, men and women, at every size, every shade, every height, everything. So it's like you're sexy to someone if it matters that much. Honestly, I feel like I only need to be attractive to one person on this earth, and that's it. And I don't care what anybody else says. And if someone says, you know what, oh man, you're too fat, I couldn't date you, good. You don't have a chance. I mean, why would that? I wouldn't care. I don't care at all about that. But even if I was single, I wouldn't really, care, because you don't want to be with someone just for that reason. I don't know why being attractive to someone of the opposite sex is so important to us, that a lot of times that becomes a motivation. As you said, with that song, with other ones, a lot of times, women feel validated because a man likes them at their size, and they can say, hey, men don't want these small little girls. They'd rather have me. How does that make you feel good by saying a bunch of men want to have sex with me? Why does that boost your...
And then your health's at danger, or our health, because men are telling us it's okay to be bigger. So we're like, okay, we'll do that.
Okay. I'm just going to bring this up really fast, and then I'll drop it, because this is one of those things. So, YouTube has all these documentaries, right? So they had this one, and it was about these super obese women, and the feeders and gainers. Do you guys know about that? Pretty much, they're women who are gainers. Like, what they do is gain weight, and their partners are feeders. They're the ones that are feeding them to make them gain weight. Yeah. So, these women, based on what they're saying, they're confident, they're happy, and they can't wait to gain another 100 pounds. This is how they're sounding. They're saying, this is making me happy. And they're like, I don't care how unhealthy this is supposed to be. This is what makes me happy. This person I'm with, this is what makes us happy. We're good together. The rest of you, who cares? I don't care if I die tomorrow. This is my life. And I mean, what do you do with that?
It's the love that's making them happy, It's the attention and the love. And yeah, that just shows how powerful it is, because you're willing to kill yourself as long as somebody tells you that they love you and that they think that you're attractive.
This one lady, she said that, I do believe she was over 600 pounds, and she's like, I love when my face just gets so puffy, and she was saying this, like, these are the things that makes her happy, and I can't wait to get an extra roll. I mean, this is what she was really saying.
I can't imagine. Like, I'm sure she's not, like, mobile.
Lying. Yeah, I don't think she was lying, but like I said, like, I just feel like the mental aspect of all this is so important, which is another reason why I think on the fat shaming side it's so bad that people on the outside of us have the ability to hurt us so much emotionally and mentally by saying and doing these things, without any regard or any care for us. Like, I think that's just such a horrible thing, because the mental side of all this is what matters.
I guess people we'll take love in any way that we can get it, even if it's not real or genuine or healthy. If it feels kind of like love, kinda, then we'll take it. It's the same thing with food and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I think with those people, I would just say, you have your life. And you can say, this person wants me to keep eating, and it makes him happy, and making him happy makes me happy. Why are you with someone who gets happier the more unhealthy you become? The closer you become to death, the happier this person gets. and they're not willing to say, I'll accept you with 400 pounds, they want and keep you a little healthier than when you're 700 pounds. I want you to get to 700 because that's what I love the most. And so I don't care how much it destroys your body and destroys everything inside of you. I only care about getting you to the point where I want you to be, rather than saying I want you to be at the place of optimal health so that I can be with you for a longer time. And I think it's really sad if we're willing to settle, for that and actually kill ourselves, to do something like that. I mean, and the same thing with men. There are a lot of women who say, I don't like muscles on a man, and I like a bigger man. I like a man that feels soft, and so their husbands or their boyfriends can't lift weights and can't try to get healthy, and they're 350, 400, 500 pounds, and they can't drop to say, I want to be 250 because she'll probably leave. I don't know if they have the whole feeder, thing going on, but, I definitely have heard that, before. Sarah has a question. She says, should fat people feel beautiful and accept themselves how they are, or should they not feel beautiful and accept themselves until they are thin?
I think we're all children of God, and we're all beautiful and wonderful, like epically awesome characters, and anyone who thinks less of themselves should continue to strive to, I think, we should see ourselves as God sees us. And I'm sure that he doesn't look down and go, oh, well, when you're fat, when you get thin, then we'll talk. When you lose a few, then we'll talk. So, right. I mean, people are beautiful because they're beautiful, because we're miracles. Like, I don't know. I think that's crazy to think that you aren't valuable until you're a certain size. That's insane to me. Insane.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Brooke. We are much more than what we weigh. There's so much more to us as people. There's so much more to us that makes us beautiful than our facial features or our size, or our smile, or, these external things that I don't think we should consider our beauty in this one small facet. There's no way. If you aren't happy with the external, change it. But just change it because you want to, for whether it's for your health or because you just want to make that adjustment. But I would just say, please don't put the weight of who you are in this one external factor. We're all so much more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think how we feel about ourselves should be tied to the way that we look. I think we should try to be presentable just in, for whatever occasion we're in. But outside of that, I don't feel better about myself as a human being, as a person, if someone says, wow, you're handsome, or, oh, I like a soft guy, or, whatever, thing you have to say. It shouldn't make me feel better if I'm a horrible person, but everybody thinks I'm beautiful on the outside. And the opposite is true. So I think you can feel beautiful. I really think beauty comes from within more than anything, because you can have someone who has a gorgeous exterior and gets into a car accident tomorrow and loses that. And even if that doesn't happen, age comes along and the features will change, even if it's subtle. So what you see today will be different, and to tie your worth into that really is not a wise thing to do, because we've seen it over and over again backfire, and it's definitely not what God intends for us to do. There are a few comments when we were talking about just why our mentality has shifted and why it's so easy for people to accept being obese now. Rob Reno says, I think as Americans we have a huge sense of entitlement, and it can lead to all kinds of problems, both weight-related and non-weight related. I also think people depend way too much on medicine today to fix everything, and in the end it just prolongs your issues if you're not willing to change. And Susan says, I think one of the reasons so many are overweight is because we are all trying to fill a hole, and if we stop filling it with food, then we have to face the hole. So we put on rose-colored glasses and overlook our obesity. Mm-hmm. And Kat gets her sexy back. She says, so true. We have to accept the blame. I have made myself fat. I just asked my husband this harsh question when he brought a bunch of junk food home. So, I mean, that's something even that she's trying to deal with. Um, and I know it's difficult, especially when we have other people around us. There are women that I know, even on YouTube, not on YouTube, who have lost weight, and their husbands have been their biggest roadblock and been saying, I love you the way you are. Or they lose 50 pounds. Okay, don't lose any more. And you know that they're still 100 pounds overweight or more in some cases, and their husbands are telling them, stop trying to lose weight. You know, for various reasons. It could be that they're jealous that they're going to get other attention. It could be that they honestly love them at a larger size and don't want them to change. It could be that they have fears on what their personality would do if they change. You know, who knows? But I know a lot of women have said that their husbands are the... And the cat, your husband is doing that. But just that made me think of that. A lot of times, you know, there are people who step up and say, okay, stop losing. You're done. And you know, you'll look at the person and say, they're not done. They have another 70, 80, 100 pounds left, you know, to go to be healthy. Not just to say to be my taste, but to be healthy.
I think that, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about this, but I know it's happened, and I'm sure you guys probably know more examples than I do, especially with weight loss, weight gain, where someone's spouse does, they do stop being attracted to them because they have lost a lot of weight, or you know, or gained a lot of weight. I just think that's such a hard thing to navigate. You know what you're supposed to do with a situation like that. I mean, of course, the first thing in my mind is that, you know, that shouldn't be what takes a spouse from you. Shouldn't be the fact that you got too skinny. But I mean, you know, like, what advice would you give someone? Let's just say if their spouse said, stop losing weight, even though they feel like, hey, I have another 100 pounds to lose. Like, what would you say to that person?
I don't. That's so tough.
Isn't that hard? That's like
It's
the hardest
very
thing.
hard. Because you just want to say, well, I'm the same person. You know, it doesn't matter. But really, it's like there's two people. One person's losing the weight, but two people are involved, and two lifestyle. Like, just so many people who lose, especially with weight loss surgery, where the weight loss I think is more rapid. So many people separate from their spouse or have problems with their spouses, and I guess it's just that kind of dynamic of, I don't know, like mourning the loss of somebody. Like, their personality is going to change. You see people who lose 100, 200, 300 pounds on YouTube, and they look like just their energy is completely different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a hard one.
very hard. I would stick it
I
out.
wouldn't know what to say.
I really think, I mean, a lot of it comes down to communication. And I don't mean that this just fixes everything, but, you know, if I was in that situation, and it's typically, I mean, well, most people who lose weight in the social media world are women who, you know, who document on social media, huge amount. But it's typically, you hear those stories with women in general, that their husband wants them to stop at a certain point. And I think that it really should, if I was in that position, I would sit down and say, well, here's the reasons why I want to lose weight. It's not so I can say that my dress size is in the single digits. It's so that these numbers on my blood work will hit these targets. These targets that the doctor told me for me to be healthy, I want to see those. I want to get off of this medication. I'm tired of taking this every day because it's poisoning me in another area. And these are the reasons why I want to get healthier. And it may take the husband time to adjust, but especially with women who have kids, your body changes anyway. You know, I mean, there's some women who gain 80 to 100 pounds when they have a child. So, you know, and usually the husband still, for people who are in the weight loss community, they'll say that my husband still loved me even as I gained weight. When I gained weight, my husband was still attracted to me. You know, Susan is not shy about saying that her husband's always, that David's always all over her. And, you know.
Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, she calls him out all the time. You know, can't keep his hands off her. But
go ahead, Susan.
You know, I really do think that if your relationship is built on more than just the physical, it may take a little while for him to adjust. but the fact that he loves you and he finds you beautiful as a total person will impact his taste, I believe. You know, and I'm speaking as a man. I'm saying I really do think that my personal preference is not to have a woman that's 100 pounds, but if Sherry Ann got to 100 pounds, I'm not going to stop loving her and stop touching her. You know, it would take a little bit of an adjustment, you know, but
I think you'll start playing Baby Got Back every day, trying to drop hints.
he has some wise words in there. I'll say that. He was like a poet, man. But you know, seriously, I really do think that if you make it about health and not, because I think as a man, we a lot of times would say, I'm already satisfied with you. I find you beautiful. Why are you trying to change what I think is beautiful and perfect? I don't want you to change. And if we see you trying to change, then we're saying, are you changing for someone else? Are you trying to impress other men out there? Like, why are you changing if I'm telling you I'm fine with you? So really sitting down, communicating with him and saying, look, these are all the reasons why I need to change. You know, where I am, I lost weight, it's great, but I have to keep going.
Okay, well, speaking of getting us back on topic and speaking about something you just said, I know that a lot of times the whole thing about being attractive, we do care about what society thinks. Do you think that a lot more of the fat acceptance is because a lot more people are overweight than before?
I do, for sure. If you go to many other countries and where people just are not the size that we are collectively, yeah, you know, Americans are big. They're bigger. And just depending on what part of the country you're in, too. Yeah, I think so, because if you see that your best friend is that size and your other friend is that size and your parents are that size and your sisters are that size and maybe you have that one thin friend that works out a lot, but whatever, they're just a workout freak. I think it would probably be it's very easy to not notice where you are. My sisters were always really thin, and when I was pregnant with Cameron, I was just ginormous. And I would sit down next to them, and I just felt like, oh my, like, I'm not the right size. Like, look at my sisters. Like, I always had that barometer that I wasn't meant to be this size, but I am. So, yeah, for sure. We enable each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think that's a big part of it. That there is some. It's so you don't stand out, and because there are so many obese people, and if we're in positions where we don't stand out, then we feel like there's no need to change. But if we're the only one and we're lagging behind, a lot of times we want to catch up, and it's kind of a subconscious thing, I think. So,
or like, Khalif, I have this horrible disease. It's called diabetes. Have you heard of it? I've never known anyone to have it. It's this horrible, it would take on oh, you have diabetes? Me too.
Yeah.
And everyone I know. What medicine do you take?
Yeah. It's
you compare medications,
Yeah, we get used to it. I mean, everything, and you see how quickly we get used to things. I mean, I remember when people were afraid to have weight loss surgery because they were afraid they would die during the operation or within 2 weeks after. And they were afraid, probably until a couple of years ago, unless someone did a ton of research and realized that it's not the same as it was 20 years ago, then people were afraid of it until a few years ago. Now it's so common, people can say it like it's nothing, and it's so easy to think, oh yeah, I can have weight loss surgery. And I don't mean easy in the sense that people have a flippant attitude. I just mean you don't really think there's a huge chance I'm going to die. There's no way I'm going to have it. It's become so common, and that's one thing that we all can see, that it's so common to see people who have it, and I guess too, being a part of this community, it feels like half of the people have it. So if I'm in a room, I feel like I'm in a room with 10 people, probably 3 or 4 of them have weight loss surgery, just because that's who, with this community, that's kind of, those are the numbers. But that was something that wasn't common, that now has become extremely common, common enough where it's accepted, where less people are judged for it, less people are bashed. Less people hear the "it's the easy way out" argument. Less people hear those things now because it's becoming more common that everyone knows someone who's done it and they know that they've worked hard in those things. So the stereotypes have changed, and I think the image of being fat in general has changed because it's so common. As you said, being diabetic is so common now, and you can manage your care at home for the most part because it's so common and there's so much money into caring for it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we got a lot of good comments and questions. Zen Maiden once said, "I think another way of fat shaming is to comment loudly about the fat person. Let the fat person overhear them." So in a way, it's an oblique fat shaming. I think that happens a lot, insults from strangers. And yeah, you see that a lot, and you hear that people making comments to stares, and it's as if they have no home training. You know, when you see the way people act when they get around someone who's large and they know nothing about the person. I think I wrote or was going to write on my blog about fat people, and I mean, I'm just saying it because that's the way people see it. Fat people eating in public. And it's like if you're overweight, if you're obese, and you eat in public, someone sees you eating something other than a salad, they're going to say, "Look at him, eating that burger. That's why he's that big." And that could have been the only thing you had that day. And you had less calories than a skinny person that day, but all they see is, look at them eating.
Or you could have already lost 200 pounds.
Right, exactly. We don't know anything about the person, you know, but, you know, we have that mentality because we see them, and it's just those stereotypes are still attached to it.
Mm.
Matthew Smelling asked, he has two questions. The first is, what's the difference between approaching someone you think is becoming an alcoholic to approaching someone where you're concerned with about their weight? When or if would this be appropriate?
I think it's very similar. I think if it's starting to affect their life, if it's affecting their job, if it's affecting their family life, if it's affecting their health, kind of the things you usually hear, I think for both that would be an appropriate barometer. Of course, I mean, people I think with overweight, you feel more comfortable, like, hey, I can't imagine saying that just because I don't know, that's just the way I am. But if someone's really looking like they have a real food problem, it's going to show up like it would any other addiction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the two situations are very similar, and I do think what's important in both scenarios is that because I'm hoping it's because we care about the person, that it is someone we care about, that we would approach them in love, you know, that we would find the right way to approach them regarding either issue. I think that's what's missing, even in this whole conversation about fat shaming or whatever, is that people don't approach each other, you know, as ones who care about the other person.
Yeah. I mean, well, I won't even say a couple of the things, and because Matthew's second question goes into some of the things that I would add to that. He says, "Why are we offended when people say we're fat or skinny? Is it that we're trying to please others and subconsciously we're disappointed in ourselves? Why exactly are we offended?" And then he adds a note and says, "I think in New England and Australia, people are more blunt. You know, if for example you went to a social environment like the pub or barbecue with your friends and family, it wouldn't be unusual for your putting on some weight, aren't you? So cultural environment plays a part in our view, in what we view being fat, including others and ourselves. So what is it exactly that we're offended about if someone says you're fat or skinny? What's the thing that we pick up on and say, ooh, that hit me and I don't like it?"
Harry squeezed my belly the other day and he said, "Mom, you're fat." And I said, "Oh, you shouldn't say that. That's not a nice thing to say." And like, no, it's not a nice thing to say, but he was being honest and he didn't mean it in a mean way. But gosh, it hurt my feelings. It really did. It made like, oh, I really am. I don't know. So yeah, there is that little thing that's like, oh.
You know, as I was saying in the beginning of this of the show, is that in Jamaica it's it's like that. It's very blunt, you know, and people don't get offended. Like the response to, you know, within the culture is like, yeah, no, whatever, you know, you make a joke, you move on. So, I mean, I think part of it, at least in part, is a cultural difference. You know, like I do think being here, there is a learned sensitivity to the issue. I don't know why that is, but I do think, at least in part, there is a learned sensitivity within our culture to it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the statement that makes you say, oh, wow, I'm offended. I think we're offended. We get offended because that's just not a thing you say to someone. We just have this unwritten rule. You're not supposed to say that. Why? I don't know. You just don't. It's not nice. So we have that ingrained in our mind. I was watching a video, and a woman, I guess in the comment section, she was talking about counting calories, and she told the person making the video, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, because you're I think she used the word huge. Because you're huge, you can lose weight faster by not, you know, dropping your calories to 1,000 or whatever. You can lose weight faster than I could lose weight because you're larger than me, or you're huge, or whatever she said. And the woman was offended, and she actually made a video about it. About making a video, it was a little vague, and then she made a second video and went into detail. And she said she was really hurt by the comment. And I'm thinking, I mean, saying huge may be subjective, but you're making videos and spending a lot of your time throughout every day publicly saying, I'm big and want to lose weight. So when someone else says you're big, why would you get offended? What's the problem with someone else saying what you've been saying about yourself in every video you've been making? You're making videos tracking your weight, saying I'm too big or I need to lose weight for whatever reason, and when someone else says, hey, you're big, and they weren't insulting, they were saying you're big so you can do this with your calories and it will have a bigger effect than it would on someone not as large as you. And she got offended, and I'm like, what? How? What? So,
I think that's like kind of a common like problem or a common thing that comes up in our like kind of weight loss community, that like how harsh is too harsh, when is that kind of tough love warranted, when is it not, when is saying things like huge like really hurtful and not very constructive. Because if someone told me I was huge, everything else would just go blank. I wouldn't hear anything else I had to say. I don't think it would be constructive. But yeah, it's something that we haven't figured out. Like socially we kind of know the rules, but the rules here on YouTube, we don't know the rules at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think with that, you know, being in the comment section where you're anonymous and everything, you definitely are a lot more bold. I see that. I see people are than they are in person. She probably in person would have chosen a better way to phrase her critique, because she was actually saying things that were helpful. What she said was something that I think I would have said to her without the "you're huge" part in it. But you know,
it's never a good way to go. If you want somebody to listen to your advice, you know, like immediately starting with some kind of insulting word is usually the way to go. Hey, idiot! You want help studying for your test?
But with me, I find it's funny because everywhere we go, and there's a black guy around, and they don't know me, they automatically refer to me as big man.
It's just the thing.
I'm 5'6". So when you call me big man, I know what you're saying. Like, why
it's true.
do you assign a stranger with a nickname associated with his weight? You don't even know me. Why not just say at a restaurant?
Black men really think it's okay.
Yeah, it's always black guys. So just like, yo, big man, what you want? Yo, big man, let me get by. Something like that. And it's like, why is my big man? Just say excuse me. If I was 200 pounds, you'd just say excuse me. But you know, I'm big man now, so you know, but I can't get.
And once again, like, right, it's something that's so innocuous. Like, you know, they're not trying to offend you, or, you know what I mean? They're not trying to shame you when they say it.
Yeah.
But
and I'm
That's
big.
what they say.
They're not lying either. They're not trying to hurt me by saying something that's wrong or incorrect. That's just the first thing that pops into their head. And one
But
thing,
I'll be honest, if you were a woman, that would be a problem. There would be articles written. There would be
yep,
news reports.
Hey, big
There
girl.
would
'Cause
be.
I would get big girl probably very quickly. I'm so tall. I mean, like, oh, hey, big girl.
I remember it was years ago. There was like some kind of club song that was something like "Watch Out for the Big Girls" or something like that. And someone said to somebody else, like they thought it was funny to say to the person because they had gained some weight. The person was offended. You know what I mean? Like, that was not funny to them. They're like, okay, I know I gained some weight. Do I need you to sing a song to me about the fact that I gained some weight? You know?
there's a couple things. There's one, I did want the quick story of our friend Natalie. Just one thing that she said when she was in high school. This one was 100 pounds. When she was in high school, and I'll just say this dynamic, she went to a high school that was, predominantly white. She's white, she's Italian. But she dated mostly black guys in high school. I guess the few that were there. All the black girls would get upset with her and say, "You're stealing our men," as if because they're the same skin shade, they own them now. And they wouldn't just say that. They would say, why would a black man want a little stick like you? Why would he want some old bony, no-shaped girl? Because most black men like thicker women. Sir Mix-a-Lot was black. So, they were saying, if this is a typical taste of a black man and we all look like that, why is he going for you? And she would get that, and she would get the insult. She would fight a lot too because she has a pretty smart mouth. So she would get into a lot of fights, but she would say that she've heard comments all her life about, you need to go eat a cheeseburger, you need to put on some weight, you look sickly, don't you eat enough, all these things, and she eats perfectly normal. She just has a fast metabolism and other things going on, but that's it, and she stays thin. So for that, she has to be put to shame, and it's usually by people who are bigger, who are considered overweight or obese, putting her to shame because they probably don't feel good about themselves, or they're jealous because of something that happened, and they're attacking her for her size. And these are the same women who would have lawsuits if you called them big girl. But they have no problem calling her bony and stick, and no men will like her and all of this stuff. So, that's why I wanted her on, so she could hear it in her words. But that was just something that it struck me because I've seen it a lot. And you see it in these memes now. And it just seems like, as someone who is obese, if you know what it feels like to be shamed, if you know what it feels like to be critiqued for your size, if you know what it feels like to hear hurtful words, why would you build yourself up by doing the same exact thing to other people because they're small? Why would you tear them down to build yourself up when all through your life you've been so hurt by people tearing you down? And I think that's my biggest shocker with this idea of fit shaming, is tearing down someone who's either working out by calling them obsessed, or criticizing how they eat or what they do, or talking about someone because they're very thin.
Yeah. I do think that is so important because a lot of times, just with our words, we're just too free and we're too loose. I think that sometimes we may not realize what we're doing or what we're saying until it comes out of our mouth. And it's easy to make, especially to make assumptions for people who are not in the same situation we are. So we can say, well, since you're not as heavy as I am, you don't know what it's like to go through this, or you don't know what that's like, and you have no idea what that person's shoes are like, before you make certain statements. And I just think we all need to be more careful about that.
Yeah. All right, we're officially out of time. And yeah, there are a lot of great questions. Everybody who was writing, Susan and Zen, I see your comments too about the marriage and the weight shift in the marriage and everything. I just want to thank everybody for leaving these great comments, coming up with great questions. I think we had a great discussion. And, you know, hopefully you'll go out and make your own videos if you weren't able to say enough. And that's it. Next week, I think we're having on, I confirmed with her about a month ago, but haven't talked to her since, Katrina Rayford, who was 955 pounds, and now she's 4 something. So she's lost close to 500 pounds, if not 500 already. So, yeah, she's going to be our guest next week. So hopefully you guys tune in for that. We probably have a couple announcements throughout the week, especially about the podcast. And again, if you have any comments or questions, just leave them below. And thank you guys for a great show.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.